Welcome to the Family Life Blended podcast. I'm Ron Deal. We help blended families and those who love them pursue the relationships that matter most. First things first, Happy New Year to you. I sure hope your Christmas season was merry and bright, but mostly I hope it reminded you of the most beautiful story ever told. The story of the risen Messiah through whom the kingdom has come. Everything is different. Jesus is king and there is hope in the world. And there is power for living differently in the world. Do you have trouble organizing your life? Your family calendar? Well, help is on the way. And for those of you with children that are moving between homes, if there's one thing that I'm hopeful for on your behalf is that in 2024, you're going to learn how to manage who you are and how you interact with your children's parent in the other home. Why? So that there can be improved collaboration between your homes and your children can live with more peace. I think both of those are worthy goals, getting organized, staying on top of things, staying in communication with the people that are important to us in life, whether they be in your home or in another home. That is the topic of our first episode of 2024. We're going to get to that in just a minute. Had a guy write to us saying his wife had all of her financial ducks in a row when she was a single mom. He said that was good. But now he's in the picture, and both of them are confused about what should change, if anything, in order to care for both children and one another should death sneak up on them. I reminded them that we have a top-rated book on that subject, on blended family finances. It's called The Smart Step Family Guide to Financial Planning. That book is designed to help you get your collective ducks in a row, and it's going to educate your attorney, if you have one, about the unique needs of blended families and financial tools that can help step families. Every couple needs this book. The show notes are going to tell you how you can get a copy. Hey, if you're new to Family Life Blended, we are the largest nonprofit resource ministry to step families and the churches that they attend. That book is just one of about 20 book, video, or online resources that we make available, as well as training for leaders and pastors. So if you're just getting to know us, sign up for our monthly newsletter, browse our website. You can even search for a local ministry on our free ministry map. And if you have a local ministry, you can post it there so others can find you. Again, we'd love for you to get connected to all of that. Check the show notes to learn how. Okay, Dr. James and Ginger Dellaripa are co-founders of a family management platform they call the Family Core. They've got a blended family of 7. They've experienced the typical challenges of co-parenting, custody battles, and family integration. And in return, they made it their ministry and mission to try to help families see the brighter side of the blending journey through this resource, the Family Core. James, Ginger, thanks for being with me today.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Hey, Ron.
It's nice to have you here. I've enjoyed getting to know you guys a little bit at some of our live events over the last couple of years, and we appreciate you being a part of those. Hey, listen, so I just want to learn something about you, and I'm sure our audience wants to know a little bit more about you guys. Before we jump in talking about this Family Core website, tell us a little bit about your family and your family journey.
Sure. Most people say that's a dynamic. We're a blended family of 7. When we blended, I brought in one boy. He brought in 2 girls. And at the time, they were 12, 7, and 4. So we're long past that because they're now 26, 21, and 18. And then we added 2 additional. So we have one that's 10 and one that's 5 getting ready to turn 6.
So you guys you're truly yours, mine, and ours.
Yes. Yes, completely. So it was great. When we first started on our journey, James said, we'll be good with 10 kids. And we compromised at 5.
Yes.
James,
the average.
James, did you really want 10 kids?
Boy, it seemed like it at the time. But I've grown up and wisdom has gotten the better of me, I think. And 5 seems to be the magic number for us.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just sitting here absorbing 3 when you started, adding 2 more. There's a lot of moving parts. You guys, like a lot of other blended families, know it's tough keeping up with all those moving parts. Did you feel
really
the need for some improved communication in your marriage? And I don't know, were there other homes that you had to deal with as well?
Oh, for sure. And like every other blended family, uh, outside of some resources that are out there like FamilyLife Blended, there's not a lot of direction to help these blended families get started off on the right foot. And so we made the common mistakes like a lot of people do, where you can take a hard road and say, when you're at my house, it's going to be my way. And there's very little flexibility or understanding of how the kids are coming over to your home, to their home, as opposed to the other family's home. So we had to learn how to bend and move with the feelings of the children, but as well as hold our own values in place when they were home, and we were acting like a new nuclear family.
So the church played a big part in that. We decided that was going to be our center point, and the kids ended up loving it, knowing that was going to be their transition point. And when they got home, that was the day we were going to church, and they all ended up volunteering and being that ended up being a big focal point for them. And then it helped us better lead, not only in the church, but in our home and in our marriage. Yeah,
it really became a center point of the family, to be quite honest with you. And when you heard the children saying that they enjoyed going to church, well, that really cemented what our family was about, and all the kids knew when they came home how the weekend was going to go when they were with us, and that we would pray over meals, and that we would gather in fellowship as a family, to keep that communication open. And it wasn't forced. Everybody enjoyed the church day, the day of church, and participating in the other activities that the youth programs had to offer. And so it really became a natural unfolding into what we became as a new nuclear family.
Now, Ginger, when you started to make that comment a minute ago, I think I misunderstood you. I thought you were saying your church helped to facilitate the transition for kids. But I think you're saying, no, Sunday. It was Sunday. It was going to church. That was our family schedule, ritual, if you will. And
correct.
That gave everybody a centralized point to sort of get reoriented again and to life in your home. Is that right?
Correct. Yes. We have since became a larger part of the community in our church, where we attend a mega church. And just now, I'm sure that you're well aware, just now our church is really starting to recognize or put a center point in, a focal point in, to support blended families. I think the statistics are large and real, and churches now, especially in larger congregations, are starting to recognize that almost half can be from a blended family. So part of our ministry together more recently is that we're going to start addressing even smaller churches with a resource like yours, so that we can start to bring in the success of blended families, or the support that's needed that we lacked 14, 15 years ago.
Sure, because blended families have different challenges, and you're around other nuclear families. They can't understand some of the problems that you're facing, and they shouldn't. They've never walked on that path, and so they just don't know. And so that's exactly what we're trying to do now, is serve that part of the church community.
And we really appreciate you doing that. I just want to say to our listener or viewer, hey, listen, a lot of blended family ministry across the country, across North America, across the world, is grassroots. It starts with a couple like James and Ginger just sort of having conversation with somebody in leadership at your church. That's often the way it begins. And the next thing you know, they're now aware of something they were unaware of. I find pastors to be very open to blended ministry once they realize that there's a need. And they often just don't have that realization. So by you, listener, just starting a conversation with somebody within your church leadership, who knows what can happen? Maybe something similar to what's happening at their church. That's great. So what about, communication within your household and between households? Did you have any particular challenges as you were getting your family up and going?
I think we truly did, and we'll be transparent. We parallel co-parented on one side,
okay,
and then we had a very litigious situation on the other. So the child is the children that are transferring back and forth, they just want to protect and honor the other parent. And we understood that. So sometimes a child would make a statement that you knew didn't come from that child, or they were fed that information and it's what they were led to believe. So communication in our house, straight away, we said, if you tell me, you have since told Dad. And if you tell Dad, Mom's going to know. Like, it was open communication in our marriage so that everybody could be on the same page. There was no hiding information that came over,
No
or please don't tell
secrets.
Dad this. No keeping secrets. And so it gave the children an opportunity. Maybe it's something they didn't want to say straight to him because they knew it came from their biological mother and that it was going to hurt him. So they would say, I'm going to tell you in confidence, but they clearly knew I was going to let him know and we were going to work through it together. So it became a kind of a security net for them, knowing that they didn't have to face him or upset him or what they thought would cause a ripple. They could tell me, we would talk through it. And we also had a very strong position that I could be home with the kids all day. Whatever decision I made, when he came through the door and they came to him and said, Mom said, he would say, what Mom said, I agree with. So there was never going to be a lot of blended families have a he said, she said, and I'm going to side with this individual, or I'm going to go to my dad or my mom, so that there could be a division. And right away, we cleared the air with that. It wasn't going to happen.
Sure. I mean, you get children in their later adolescent stage or early teenage years, and there's that divide and conquer mentality, right? There's the manipulation that just comes with that age range. It's not a fault. It's just more of a part of the personality of that age range, and you have to learn how to stand together as a husband and wife, and as a mom and a dad, and treat each child appropriately, but also stay firm with what the answers are going to be. You have to support your wife, you have to support your husband in whatever the decisions that they make regarding the safety and the health of the child.
Yeah, that is so good, guys. And I can just hear somebody pushing back who's listening or watching right now, because I get this every time I speak on this subject. Somebody raises their hand and goes, but, and here's the big but. We want to do that. We communicate well in our home. We work hard at not letting the kids divide and conquer, but what happens between homes is a whole lot more difficult. Or the kids go into the other home and they get totally different answers, even though we've given them an answer, or they're told something over there that contradicts, or all of that kind of stuff. We all know,
Yeah.
A lot of people realize that that's a big X factor in their world and in their life. Okay, so I want to drill down a little bit. You guys said you had parallel parenting with one co-parent situation with the kid's parent in the other home. And you had one that was very litigious. Let's start with the parallel parenting. What did that look like in your situation?
For me, I had been doing that for 12 years prior.
Okay.
So we had decided that what he was going to do at his house, he was going to do.
You're talking about your kid's father, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, our son's biological father. So the decision was made, and it was actually made very early on. What you're going to do at your house, you're going to do at your house. You're going to keep our son safe. End of story. I'm not going to, if it was something I needed to question, I could question it. But it really was stepping out on a limb to think, you're going to do what's in the best interest of the child. So he did what he was going to do. We tried to parallel as much as we could Christmas gifts, birthday gifts, so that one house wasn't over gifting or under gifting, because our career paths were different. And so we tried to balance it as well as we could. Tried to do parent-teacher conferences together, although separate, so that we were trying to honor the teacher's time and make it as comfortable for him as possible, but not give the child the impression at all that we were a unit as parents, as husband and wife. It was completely separate. Show up separate, do the job separate, but in the best interest of him and his safety. Now, when my daughters came into my life when they were 4 and 7, and they would see the type of relaxed type of method we would pull up, He would hug and kiss us on the exchange. He would turn right back around to the car next to him, hug and kiss his stepmom and his biological father. We would wave. He would get in and drive away. After several months of that, our daughters, who were being brought up in a more litigious situation where it couldn't be like that, started to question, why can't you do the exchanges like that? Why can't, you know, those types of things. So in hindsight, it was a benefit, because now that they're adult children, what it did do was it made all three of them that recognize that no matter what went on either side or exchange or who had what type of parent, that those three, I would say, bonded more successfully than most biological children or siblings do. They are thicker than thieves. They, they're in tight communication even as adults. But by seeing the two different levels of parenting, it really brought a higher education to all three of them, and it gave our boy an ability to nurture the two girls and say, hey, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're siblings. Let mom and dad do what they're going to do. Let your mom do what she's going to do. Let my dad do what he's going to do. It doesn't matter. It's just us. It's us. And it really kind of brought them together. He kind of was able to nurture them and say, it doesn't matter. My situation is no different than yours. We have both our parents are both divorced, and now it's just us. And so they're probably as nuclear can get, and we're blessed beyond measure because that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. I suspect that's true. They really acted like a team early on, and it really warmed your heart when you saw them behaving like silly. Not to say that they didn't get in arguments with each other every once in a while, but they really did come together with a friendship, and it has lasted all these years. I mean, they are still friends today.
That is really
so that's a very, very blessed component of a blended family to have in place, for sure.
Yeah, that really is. So, James, you had a court situation with your former spouse. What was the nature of that? How did that go? How long did it last?
Well, most of the legal proceedings were over taking care of the children appropriately. We started with a 50-50 custody arrangement, and pretty much right from the get-go there was problems, and I feel like the court kind of knew we were going to be revisiting them at some point. All the same problems that everybody else out there that is listening can relate to, whether it be health problems or just perceptions of endangerment of the child, those types of situations, because the children would bring those stories back home, right? And so you're being fed some stories, and you have to filter through some of that stuff, because these are young kids, and you don't know what's true, you don't know what's not true. But right. Over a period of time, you kind of get the lay of the land. So we would have conversations with the children, not in an interrogation standpoint. We'd basically let them come to us. One of the things I found out is that when the children first come to you, they tell you what's on their mind straight away. And then give it a day or so, and then revisit it in some form or fashion. You can kind of get the whole story about what's been taking place. If in fact there's something that needs to be discussed, or if you think there's something that needs to be discussed. I'm not trying to suggest, weaponizing conversations or anything like that. But if there's truly a sense that there is something not right happening,
especially if your child is distressed in some way. I'm assuming that's
correct.
Sort of the context
Correct.
there. Yeah, and
correct.
You're following up. If your child came home from school and let you know something happened with some other student, you'd want to follow up on that.
For sure. And so you take it slow and easy, and the story will come out. And so over the course of a couple years, after the divorce was over and we were attempting to co-parent, it became clear that there were red flags, and that we needed to address this in a formal fashion. And of course we had to go a litigious route, and that took a number of years. And we went through, I think it was 3 comprehensive family evaluations by different experts and all other types of people in place, with a couple different child psychologists or child therapists to try and root out the story for for the benefit of the court, right? Because the parents are biased in their perception of things. But in the end, it took about 6 years. But in the end, the court saw that it deemed right to be in court and to readjust the custody schedule. And did we lose you?
Yeah, no, we're here.
Okay, I apologize.
That's okay.
So the court deemed it was necessary to be back in court and look at this family dynamic and this family picture again. And in the end, we ended up with the children 100% of the time with some visitation, and we had the decision making in our court or on our side rather. But to say that that's the way it needs to go down every single time, that is certainly not the case. It's agonizing. It's emotionally draining as well as the pocketbook draining. But you have to do what's right for the children in the end. You cannot. I can't stress it enough, Ron. You can't weaponize the court system because you have a vengeful heart or a vengeful action against the other party. You've got to rise above that, stay above the fray, and know that if you do go into the court situation, that it's such a long haul, and the court's probably going to get it right in the end. But you're in for a roller coaster, and you can't get off that roller coaster anytime too soon because this is all about the best interests of the children.
It is so difficult. I know there's no one right way to go about that. Everybody thinks they're right when you go to court. Everybody's digging in their heels, and it's difficult. It's a hard environment to come to some understanding that's mutually beneficial, if I could say it that way. So sometimes you do have to have a third party speaking into the situation on behalf of the kids, and that's unfortunate and difficult, but sometimes it's what has to happen.
I will say though, when the final decisions came down and there was a reallocation of time and decision making, there was a great sense of relief in the children. Mentally, they knew, or psychologically, they knew something wasn't right. The examples that they would bring home of this happened or that happened, they knew it wasn't right, and it didn't mirror how things were taking place in our home. And so those buildups of examples and events over time, they can create a lot of anxiety in the child. Fear can rise to the surface, and it's all not good, but sometimes you have to go there in order to get to the greener pastures on the other side of it. So that was a storm that we just had to ride out. And it was certainly worth doing. Like I said earlier, it wasn't easy, but it was certainly worth doing. And in the end, God helped get us through a very tough stormy situation, all for the betterment of the children.
Well, guys, so 5 kids, the transitions, bringing 2, starting with 3, bringing 2 more into the picture, having to wrestle with some of that court situation for 6 years. Man, there's a lot of stress and distress going on behind the scenes in the middle of all of that for your kids, but then also for each other. And you got to communicate. And there's, you told the attorney what? I'm sure there's all kinds of moments where you're thinking, this is just hard. And so was that part of what eventually led you to think, we need to create a tool that will help people communicate, stay organized, stay on top of what's going on for all families, but also for families where there's somebody moving back and forth?
Right.
Yeah. Well, so the timeline, Ron, is that this court battle ends, and within a year, Ginger has this Holy Spirit moment. Of course, that's usually about 2 a.m. When she has them.
I get it. Why does the Holy Spirit do that? Same thing with me. I don't know what the deal is.
He wants to make sure you're not busy. You're not busy, are you?
There you go.
I want your full attention.
Yeah, there you go.
But I'm going to please tell the story because it's a fantastic story. But this unfolded just at the end of all these troubles and as the sky was bluing up and getting more sunny.
We thought we were totally free and clear. So over that period of time, it was, we had put in, by this time, we're about 8 years into being together. And we had as I'm sure you can tell, we prayed constantly. Like, why are we going through this? When is this going to end? Can you give us some answers? Please keep the children safe. All of those things. And so I'm an over detailer, scheduled down to the detail type person anyways. And so we had prayed on it, no answer. So of course we thought God's silence was definitely we were being punished, or, everything else that you think of when you don't necessarily hear him speak straight away. So one morning, the Holy Spirit comes and says, I put you through that so that under all circumstances that you can reply in honesty that you have been through all of the trials that somebody is going to come to you with. So in that, you and your husband are going to make an app, and you're going to make an application for families so that the transitions can be better and the safety of the children can be better, and documentation is clear and calendars are clear and messaging is clear, and all of these things that we had worried about and had been to court over multiple times. It suddenly became clear, and he basically said, this is what it's going to do. This is what the logo is going to look like. Now wake your husband up and tell him you're going to make an app.
So at 2:05, James,
this is great.
What were you thinking?
I thought this was wonderful. So I said, hey, listen to this. The Holy Spirit says that the last 8 years was all for this.
Okay.
We're going to make an app. And he said, no.
I'm just settling into this new world. Free of the litigious bondage. Now we have a new project on our plate. So I got up early that morning. We went back to sleep. I consoled her, got her back to sleep because she was very excited. I got up early in the morning, and I was going through my emails and drinking my coffee, and that thought came back to me from about 4 hours earlier. And it made perfect sense, actually. It almost dawned on me as a light bulb above my head that, this is it didn't take long to convince me. While the kids were younger and we were in all these different co-parenting dynamics, the neighborhood families would compliment us on the children's hair is great. All their activities on time. They seem well adjusted. They're doing well in school. They're just pleasant to be around or to have over for a play date. And so, 99% of it goes to Ginge here for being so organized. And when I was thinking about that, all those memories that morning, it was the color-coded calendars. It was all the different chat threads. It was a folder of documents. It was all these different components, but nothing comprehensive or put together. And so that's what came into my head, is that this idea is a family management tool. It's some type of comprehensive family management tool. And so I got up straight away. I stole all the colored pencils and crayons and 3x5 note cards that I could. And I just began doodling away at what
from our house, not stole them from anywhere.
Okay.
Yes, fair enough.
Let's get that straight. We don't want him going to jail over this.
The grocery store or anything. So the kids later over the week are like, where's all my crayons or colored pencils? I don't know. I have no idea. But and we began to lay this thing out of what it would look like, and we thought, okay, the pillars that need to be in place for organization and communication are some type of data storage feature, a shared calendar, a geolocation check-in just for safety and security purposes, but it can also generate conversation. And then a chat feature, obviously for communication purposes. Those four pillars were the center of what this app has become. And we thought it was about organization and communication, but it's really about connection is really what we found it out to be. And we've been at this for about 5 years now, and it's become a wonderful project. It's certainly become our ministry. We thought this was all about just a family management tool, but now we realize it's greater than that, and it goes back to serving blended families in all capacities.
Okay, Ginger, I want you to expand on something he just said. First of all, let me just say to the viewer or listener, this is a tool that has application for any person, individual, family. If you're part of an intergenerational family, this could be something that you can utilize. But it has that added element of a sensitivity for blended families where there's another home and you're trying to coordinate between home, co-parenting, some of those kinds of pieces are definitely an advantage there. So he just said a minute ago, what this really boils down to, it started in your minds as an organizational tool, but what it's really about is connection. Ginger, would you mind saying more about that?
Sure. Our children, there's 5 of them. They have a lot of friends. And so a lot of their friends would see how connected we were to our children. We made sure that dinner was around the table multiple times out of those 7 days, and specifically every time our family was together, because we made sure that custody days were the same. You sit down at the dinner table, you connect. When we do pickup, if we're both here, we both do the pickup as often as possible. Talk about their day, what was good, what was bad, and communicate. Well, we ran a carpool. We've run carpools with all the kids because at one point we had 4 kids at 4 different schools. So you kind of have to manage that.
Yep.
And we had our children's friends say, doesn't it bother you that your parents talk to you so much? Your parents want to know where you're going, what you're doing, who you're hanging out with, what homework you have, what was your favorite part of the day, what was your worst part of the day. And the older they got and these children were around our household more often, they were seeing a sense that we actually love them and we actually wanted to communicate with them. And then we actually started asking their friends the same questions. And so when they got into our vehicle for carpool, it was like a family party because we knew what was going on. Yep. We knew the problems they were having, things like that. And now even further on, their friends will say, hey, Evelyn, did you check in so your parents know if something happens, they know where we're at and they know where we're going and they know, the concert environment. And we would always say the same things and have the same connection reminders with our kids. And it's not that we don't trust our children. It's that we want them to know that we are the resource. We would rather have them come back to us in connection for resource than seek a response somewhere else with information that may not be true or healthy for them. So we have always been big on connection. And when we started with this tool, that was the number one thing, is that there's a way to message, there's a way to check in with each other. All of our adult children put their college calendars on their calendars so that then we can see where they're at and where they're going. And it gives him an opportunity to kind of stalk our kids to say, hey, I'm passing the university. I see that you're available.
Lunch?
Can we go to lunch? Yeah. So just staying in connection and communication with the kids and always keeping it open, even when it's not a topic that, we have 3 daughters. So there are some topics that James is like, why are we talking about this at the dinner table? But it's because they feel comfortable talking about anything, anytime, anywhere, and staying in connection with us.
Yeah, Ron, I mean, it was really about just frequent engagement. And that frequent engagement led to trust as a parent-child relationship should have. And the app kind of helps with that. You're checking in with them. They're checking in with you. These are frequent actions being done throughout the day. And although we may be apart, we're still connecting in some way. And that just leads to a better relationship, better current ongoing relationship with each of the children. And it really does bring a team environment together, because there's more discussion over the dining room table when there's a chance to get everybody home for dinner at the same time. And there's open dialogue. It's really turned out to be a very useful, positive tool in that regard. And it really wasn't designed for that originally. This is just one of those blessings that have occurred from it.
I know there's some more elements to the app that we'll talk about here in a minute, but so far you've mentioned chat and calendar, and those are things every one of our phones has on there. And so we can already chat with our kids. We can already calendar with our kids. Is there any distinct advantage to having that all centralized into one place?
Well, I think there is, because how the app works is it's set by permissions. So everybody has a profile, and then the way you share content on the app is by tagging that person on that piece of information, whether it's a calendar event or a piece of data storage like a birth certificate or a medicine record, whatever it may be. Anybody else in the app who's not tagged on that piece of information won't know anything about it. So you can keep information sensitive and secure and only share with the people that you need to. That's why it works well for blended families, is because you can have X's on the platform and be sharing the information that needs to be shared with for that biological child's benefit, but they can also have the new nuclear family over here and keep this information separate and secure, all on the same platform. That's why it's comprehensive and works so well in that manner for bigger blended families with more complex relationships in it.
Yeah, and I think what you said is perfect. It's all in one place. And so when you, I'm sure any family that's blended or running more than one calendar, even a busy nuclear family, I would run his work calendar along with my work calendar, along with my girl's custody calendar, our son's custody calendar, then our bio kids calendar. And you've got, then all of a sudden you're 4 or 5 calendars later.
That's right.
So being able to view it in one place with all of those events right on top of each other so that you can coordinate vacations or holiday parties or whatever you need to do, you're doing it all in one place. And so I think that then brings a huge benefit, because even your communication thread, everything is under one button. And so you said it perfectly. It's all in one place, and that's what makes it a benefit.
James, a second ago, I heard somebody scream in my ear when they heard you say, you can have your ex on the application. And somebody just screamed, that is not a good idea. So tell us, is it a good idea? Like, what's the advantage of that, and how does that facilitate co-parenting, for example?
Yeah, well, to be a good co-parent, you need to act like a parent. Right? You need to do what's in the best interest of the child, even though you may not see eye to eye with that ex-partner anymore. What we know about co-parenting is there's a high anxiety level and high depression level in kids who are products of divorced co-parenting situations or are in blended families. CDC statistics have shown a doubling of anxiety over the last 2 decades. And if you carve out kids in blended families or co-parenting situation, those rates tick upward. You can have it up as many as 1 in every 8 kids has a diagnosable anxiety disorder or depression or both because of these family dynamics that we as parents have created for them. So do you want to co-parent? Do you want to co-parent appropriately? If so, maybe this app is a good idea, because you can share information in a neutral fashion. You can text in a neutral fashion. You can build a calendar just around that child where nobody else has to be involved in it or see anything else in it. And you're doing your job as a parent here, and you're doing your job as a parent over here as well. You're taking care of all the children equally, and you're demonstrating that you are acting like the parent you're supposed to be. You're keeping that other party in communication and up to date and current with what's happening with the child when they're away from them. And if you do have litigious actions going on, the app is good because you can record the fact that you've been doing and sharing the information or sharing the communication that you need to be doing.
It documents the communication.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of upside to doing that. Yes, I understand. That's in the past. You don't want to see that X necessarily so much anymore, but you've got to understand that this is not about your needs. This is about raising the child appropriately to be a good citizen in the community when they get to become a young adult. What we know is anxiety and depression, when it goes untreated or unknown about, later in life leads to a lot of behavioral disorders. You know all this, Ron, and all this is playing out in our world today when we see all these gang riots and looting going on by young kids, or we see young children acting out in a violent fashion, especially at schools. We're seeing all this play out today, and all this is really a product of our own mistakes. And we all make mistakes, but we got to learn from them and repair them. And we're not doing a great job of that just yet.
So what do you do if the other household won't engage the system? Like, all good co-parenting comes down to both sides trying to do their part and communicate well. And I can totally see how awesome this would be if 2 households were in agreement. That's something that they would work with.
Right.
Yeah. Have you run into any
and
struggles?
that does not happen all the time, or being in agreement or wanting to be on the same platform. And we understand that. And I think the girls and I had always established a great relationship, and even discussing their biological mom, which was fine. And I had just said with a family earlier that I did get some kickback from the kids to say, why do you you don't have to include her, or you don't have to talk to her, or you don't have, you don't have to do those things. Why do you do it? And really the bottom line is you have to put yourself in the shoes of the other parent. And no, the kids may not see that, no, I don't want to talk to her, but I am going to do that because it really benefits them. And I'm modeling behavior in the future for them as well. And so you need to teach your children to handle stressful situations like that in a mature fashion. And it really takes nothing from me to go on the calendar at a soccer game, and I invite the people that need to be invited, whether it be grandma, grandpa, on either side, on every side, but them being able to see that their biological mom was invited, it takes the stress off of them to have to carry the information. Yes. It takes the stress off of her having to ask me for the information. And it takes the stress off me because really I've made no verbal contact. I've invited her. If she chooses to come, I can't change her decisions, but at least she was invited. And there's, as you know, I'm sure you've seen in your ministry and counseling, their decisions today may not be the same 2 years from now. And I'd hate to have that damage a possible relationship that they could have with the child down the road. It gives them an opportunity to say, oh, yes, I did remember you played soccer, or you swam, or are you still doing that? It gives them the opportunity to still have communication and have an understanding of what their children are doing, even if it's not a direct contact.
Yeah, what we found is the percent of co-parents that won't jump on the app with the other party, about half of them will come around over the course of a year or so, and then the other half won't. And usually the ones that are the most resistance, that's where there tends to be some court wrangling going on anyways. And then it goes back to our conversation just 2 minutes ago, which is use the app, document that you're being the parent, because most likely you're going to be back in court and you're going to have to prove your position at some point anyways. And now you have something to demonstrate that you've been doing your job as a parent.
And in the meantime, you're still coordinating well with children, you mentioned grandparents. You could have other people involved in that, a youth pastor, whoever is, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, whoever's caring for the child. And what we have found, if our adult children will come in and kind of foster the parent role, if we're like when we go and do a live event near you guys. So we have the older children come in. So when they do, we tag them on the younger children's calendar events because they're very active. We open up the power of attorney for them to treat, the pediatrician consent. They have all that information with them. And when we come home and we return and they're not responsible for their minor siblings, we untag them and it's off their calendar. So having somebody else step in, have all of the documentation that they need and the calendar events and the daily schedule so it doesn't cause a blip in the younger kids' schedule. And it makes the older kids look very informed because they know, what they need to be eating and what time they need to go to bed and all of those things. It kind of makes the household run seamlessly without us being present. And to be quite frank, our older children probably do a better job at the parenting than we do. So it works out perfect.
I think that word tag has more than one meaning.
Yes.
Tag,
yes.
You're it, we're out. That's where
You're on.
Yes.
Hey,
Good luck.
I'm assuming you're getting some feedback from some of the people who've been using this. You got a story or two you could share with us?
We have. We probably one of my favorite, and I'm still in communication with her quite frequently. I had a young lady reach out somewhat.
A year and a half ago?
Yeah, she was in distress. And once she had DM'd me on a social media account because we do a lot of family support. And this gal reached out to me. She was deployed in Iraq. And she's a mom. And she got deployed 4 weeks after her third daughter was born. But she is also a bonus mom to the first child, which is a boy. So her circumstance was beautiful, per se. Her best friend ended up being, over time, the biological mom of her stepson. She basically laid it out and said, we know this is no secret. We're going to be parents for lifetime because I'm married to his father now. You and I are going to be best friends. And I'm sure the woman thought she was crazy. But nonetheless, 3 children down the line, she gets deployed. She spent half of her deployment away from the children, and she was starting to get into a depression of her own. So she said, do you think your platform would be helpful to me? So we actually loaded both biological mom and bonus mom, and she is away in Iraq. Biological mom of the oldest child started coordinating all of the other children into their platform as well. So now they've got biological dad, biological mom, mom that's deployed in Iraq, the child that they share, and then their daughters, there's one on one side and three on the other, they're all on the same platform. Each family, although they're running separate lives, coordinate their calendars so that the child gets to see both sets of siblings on both sides. And it is just a remarkable, when she adds her date night with her husband, she doesn't tag the other mom.
Right.
They don't need to know.
Right.
So they're still running separate lives, separate calendars, but the information that they need to tag to make sure that the siblings are still connected, even though there's only that one biological sibling that connects those children, that everything circumferences around the ability of that child to get the most out of the sets of siblings on both sides.
That's neat.
So that was a huge success. And she called me in tears from Iraq one day and said, I just went into the mess tent and told everybody to get on this app because a lot of the parents are having the same struggle. They're away from their children.
Right.
They're not able to see what they're doing on a daily basis. So having parents back home, adding those events and having the parent that is deployed or away be able to be part of those events or say, hey, I saw you got your hair cut today, when they are able to talk. Those are seemingly daily agenda items, but it's a big deal when you don't have a parent in the home. So that was a huge success for us, and happy as can be. And both sets of parents were like, this is really cool because I can run my family and still work with the blended aspect, but still build communication with my children outside of the blended aspect that we have going on, which is great.
You're taking care of everybody appropriately, like all in one space.
Yeah.
This is a subscription-based service, right?
It is.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's monthly subscription base.
We're going to point people to our show notes where they can learn how they can get in touch with it and explore it. I'm sure there's a website. You can explore the app. And you guys are giving our viewers and listeners a special 30 days for free. Normally, people just get 7 days. You're going to get 30 days to use it, try it, settle in, see how it feels, take it for a test run, and then make your decision. Thank you so much, James and Ginger, for being with me today.
Thank you. We appreciate you having us.
Thank you, Ron.
Happy New Year, everyone.
If you want to learn more about what they're doing at the Family Core, look in the show notes. And as we start the new year, I just want to personally thank all of you who participated in our December donor match. Your gift to Family Life Blended is what helps us produce this podcast and reach around the world with the various ministries and strategies that we employ. So thank you very much. Nan and I are going to be speaking soon in Texas and California, and I'll be doing a virtual training for pastors in March. And our next Blended and Blessed live stream, well, that's coming up in April. You want to find information about all of that, you can learn more at smartstepfamilies.com, or again, check the show notes. Okay, next time, hey, we're going to be talking, I know, believe me, you've never heard this story before. We're going to be talking with a biological dad who had no idea that there was a problem with his child. And we're going to be talking with a stepmom who absolutely knew there was a problem with his child. That's next time on Family Life Blended. I'm Ron Deal. Thanks for listening or watching. And thank you to our production team and donors who make this podcast possible. Family Life Blended is part of the Family Life Podcast Network, helping you pursue the relationships that matter most.